You are listening to episode 297 of Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and here on the Game Deflators Podcast, we like to talk about games we've recently picked up, games we're currently playing, and we make a kung fu movie in this week's Inflation Deflation Challenge. So this week, I am joined by Barry Carenza of Premium Edition Games for, I think it's episode 9 or 10 or 20 that we've had you on now.
It's been a lot. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks again, Barry, for coming on. So this week's discussion topic, Barry is going to be running through their Series 9 announcements that they have for Premium Edition Games and providing any additional updates that we have from Premium Edition in terms of Kickstarters and stuff in development and all that good stuff in terms of what's going to be hitting your shelf pretty soon. But first, before we start the episode, you can find us on thegamedeflators.com, our, wait for it, Barry, currently out-of-date website. You can also find us on social media at Game Deflators on X, at The Game Deflators on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. You're also listening to a podcast on a podcast application, so go ahead and leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and leave the comments and all that good stuff, and of course, subscribe. Always appreciated. This week, we're going to be looking at a new Mario Lego set and how Activision is stopping cheaters. But Barry, I'll turn it over to you first to kind of let folks where they can find Premium Edition Games, where they can find you, and then we'll dive into some pickups and what we're currently playing.
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter at Hawk Hellfire. I'm also on Blue Sky and Fuse, the same handle. And of course, Premium Edition Games, you could find us everywhere social media at Premium Edition Games. On Twitter or X, it's at Premium Edition 1. And of course, PremiumEditionGames.com, where you can pre-order our latest series of titles, as well as pick up a bunch of in-stock games right now.
Good stuff, dude. So let's go into our recent pickups. I will pass it over to you as a guest to provide your recent pickups.
So I've been pretty much staying on topic or up to date with the Switch release. It's the terrible set. I should never have started this, but I'm way too deep now. There's way too many games coming out, and it's almost to the point of overwhelming. But there was one particular game that I was really happy to pick up, and that's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which how did I get this far without Mario Kart 8 Deluxe? And I didn't. I had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but they released Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the booster pass last year, but it only contained waves 1 to 5. It was really annoying, and it was only released in Japan and Asia, and Europe had a code in box version. But now on NintendoSoup.com, which is in Singapore, they're the only ones I know of that have it. They have an ESRB rated version, and everyone that's ordering it, myself included, are getting the 002 cart, which you have to turn it over to see, which contains everything. It's complete on cart, and it's full English. It's the entire booster pass. It's all 6 waves. It's the only way to have the game preserved physically in its entirety, and I was really happy to finally get that, because that's one of the biggest fears with DLC and all this additional content, whether it be free or paid, is when a store goes down, and we know Nintendo has shut down stores plenty of times already, that DLC is gone. Like, you can never get it again. You have to play it on someone else's version that already had it previously downloaded. And this circumvents that. So they still have copies in stock. I think it's $85, which is expensive, but you factor in that's the full DLC as price as well. And I was really happy to pick that up for the collection. And as a preservationist, I'm really happy with it.
You only collect like ESRB
No.
Nintendo Switch right now.
No,
so are you doing like the Play Asia
I
releases
have
and
the
things like that?
full English language, so the full US, and then if it's not released in the US, I get English, as long as the game has English. So I pick Europe first. If there's no European version, then Asia. If there's no Asia, then Japan. And then of course there's a few like German exclusives and Chinese exclusives or whatever that do have English that I pick up. But this is like it's still ESRB, even though it's not released in the US or Canada or Mexico. And but again, it's fully in English, so I will absolutely jump on that, especially over like the Japanese version that only had waves 1 to 5. And a lot of the stuff they do that. They just did Splatoon 3, also Japan. I have on the way. They did a bundle with that, and it still has a download, I believe, but it does have the DLC. But Europe just got one, and it was a code in box again. It was like the original launch cart with the code in box, which is so cheap. And America doesn't get anything. We're just like, oh yeah, here, same Splatoon 3. Have fun with it.
We'll get like a digital release.
Well, or digital. Yeah, of course it's
Yeah,
digital.
like just digital though, not even a code in box.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I saw the Nintendo Soup thing as well last week, and haven't pulled the trigger yet. But I'm right there with you. If I'm gonna get it, it's all on the cart. Sweet, yeah,
It's all on the card, and it said, I took a gamble. I said, you know what, let me gamble. I said, worst case, it's not, and then I just try and sell it, and if I lose,
yeah,
$10 or whatever because it's opened, I lose like $10. I took a gamble, but everyone else has gotten 002s, myself included. So I'm not going to say it's 100%. I'm going to say it's close to 100%. You'll get it. I just don't want to say yes, you're guaranteed, and then someone doesn't, and they get mad at me. But
yeah,
everyone that I know of that has ordered it has gotten that 002 cart. So it is, and I don't know how big of a supply they have. I mean, they might have a ton left. They might have very little left. I don't know. But it was one of those where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna grab this now because secondhand, if they run out, I don't see it going for less than 85 because that was the regular price and people will probably jack it up. In fact, I'm sure there's probably someone eBay right now jacked up.
yeah. It probably is $120 all
Yeah, so
DLC on cart. Yeah.
exactly.
Any other pickups?
I'm trying to think. I've gotten a couple new supervisions since I was last on. New versions of the supervision that I hadn't had before. So it's always one of those rabbit holes where when you're dealing with things that there's not much documentation on, and we're talking 20 plus years old, and it's like you don't know they're out there until suddenly one pops up and it's like, oh my god, this exists. I didn't even know this existed. So it becomes a fun game, but it also becomes a nightmare if it's expensive because it's like, well, when am I going to see another one of these again? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do I pull the trigger or don't I? So I'm trying to think that, and I got a weird, I forget what it's called, like I think it's like Ezio or something. I got it's from Japan. It's a violin console it's a music console. It's an actual violin with interchangeable cartridges. They're music cartridges, of course. It's using the Zavix system for technology, and it's really interesting. I never saw it before. I'm like, this is so quirky. I have to have one. It was only released again in Japan, so I picked that up.
One day I'm going to be in your city and be like, hey, Barry, we should hang out. And you're like, oh, come on to the house. And there's going to be a ticket booth outside, be able to enter your museum in the basement.
Maybe one day we'll see. Right now, a lot of the
Uh,
stuff, unfortunately, is in boxes until I can get a place to properly display a lot of it. And that's the issue. I always say the holy grail for any collector is free space. Doesn't matter what it is. Having free space is so invaluable. And
yeah, I've actually kind of slowed down a little bit as far as big collections. I haven't gotten a big collection in a very long time. And a lot of that's because I'm not looking
yeah,
for the pure aspect of, if I pick it up, then that's space that needs to be
where
tackled.
where
And
can we put it?
yeah, I'm actually kind of contemplating now, like, can I move my glass cases somewhere so that way I could put one more shelf up because I'm already out of space as is, and I got like games on the floor if I got to be sold and such.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Um, cool. And then, what are you currently playing?
So I'm currently playing a couple things. Still working through Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I'm pretty much finished now with Nintendo World Championship NES Edition. Um, I'm in chapter 3 right now of Legend of Heroes Trails into Daybreak, which I'm behind on that by a week because NIS America didn't send me my game for a week after launch, which was very upsetting about that. Like, what the hell? And now I'm doing more maintenance stuff in Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail. I finished the story. I finished, you know, most of the little things, just doing the raid and working on other jobs, getting them to 100 from 90 and stuff like that. But that took up a huge chunk of time. New expansion, just there goes my life for a bit. But I had a blast doing it. So those are the main things I'm currently playing.
Nice. So on my end, my wife and I just got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. on the
Nice.
PS5. She, I think last time we were on, we had one of those Target gift cards from her work, and we got another
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, right. So she got one. She's like, "Hey, let's go store and get a game." And coincidentally, it's on sale of Amazon right now for $29.99 for a limited deal, and it was also on sale at Target. They price match regardless, so we're good. So $30 for new copy of Ratchet and Clank that's been 70 since release, and like I think the lowest I'd ever seen it was maybe 45 or 50. So that was good news. So we picked that up. Also got Ninja Blade on the Xbox 360 at GameStop of all places.
Ooh,
Uh, you know how it is. You go in, you're like, "Hey, do you have Xbox games?" And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They didn't have this on the shelf, but when he printed out the list, he had it on the list. So there was no case on shelf, which leads me to believe somebody either stole the case or they just hadn't put it out yet. Um, if you're not familiar with it, it is a From Software game. Pretty rare for the most part. I think a loose disc will run you $35 usually, and then like complete in box like 60 or 70 for that game. So really excited about that, but it is a disc only. I got it for $22, I think, after tax when all was said and done. So definitely a nice pickup there. And then I got Shan Yuan Sword 7, which is
so good.
yeah, so I haven't played it before. I happen to, you know how it is, man. You go into like a game store, GameStop, whatever it may be, you see something that just kind of catches your eye, and you're like, okay, let's look it up. Are the reviews decent enough to be able to pick it up? And it is in terms of reviews. I think it has been released on PC all up to this point, and this was one of the
Hmm.
first releases that they had on console. So on both, I think it was Xbox as well as PS4 for that release, and maybe Switch, but I'm pretty
Switch,
sure it
yeah.
was Xbox and PS4. So grab that, and 15 hours of, you know, storytelling and fighting and everything else. I mean, where could you go wrong with like 8 to 9 out of 10 reviews?
Oh
So
no, it is
uh,
a great game, I could tell you. Like I
yeah,
do recommend it since you got I'm assuming you got it for PS4 or
yeah,
Xbox.
I did.
Um I got it and I didn't play it and then it was announced for Switch and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get it for Switch." It was put out by our friends over at East Asia Soft and Play Asia. But I got a review code for Nintendo Fuse for the Switch version. So I played through and completed the Switch version. And it ran extremely well for being on Switch. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest and there was definitely little bits of slowdown here and there. But it was a great game. So I do think you'll enjoy it. Have you played the series before?
No, I haven't. That's why when I saw 7, I was like, but
They're all
you know,
independent.
okay, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, this one's an actual action RPG. It's it's got some like Dark Souls kind of esque stuff to it, but it wasn't terribly hard. There's some
Okay.
puzzles. The third one also is on the Switch now. They brought that over, and that's more like turn-based RPG.
Mm,
That one's gonna get
gotcha.
released from Serenity Forge in America.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice. So yeah, that was my other pickup that I had. And as far as what I'm currently playing, I'm still playing Alundra on the PS1. God, just trudging through that game, man. It's rough. But I am almost done, I think. I'm on like, in terms of like chapters, I'm on like chapter 19 of 22.
Okay,
So I'm
so you're
super
close.
close. But, and then after that, my plan is probably to play Wo Long on the PS5. So that's going to take me God knows how long to beat too. But luckily, I'm also playing the medium with my wife. That's our game together. So if there's a game that I want to play, but it's not my individual game, I can play it with her. And so the medium has been very good so far. The puzzles are pretty decent for the most part. If you ever watch our stream on YouTube, you'll see that we take some time occasionally to go through puzzles, which is probably good and bad. Maybe it's just the brain not working at night. Uh, so that's what I'm thinking. Some of them are just so obvious. I'm like, oh, we picked like we were in a garage, and it's like, oh, you got to figure out like how to get your medium powers to boost in like the alternate world. And we're like, okay, cool. So we walk in the garage, and like just before that, there was a bench with like 3 dolls on it and a very obvious empty spot where there's supposed to be another doll. We walk in the garage and I pick up a doll, and then I'm going in circles trying. I'm like, where the hell do I go? And then we walk up to the dolls. I'm like, oh, I got to put the doll with the other dolls, and then it's going to do something that'll allow me to do X, Y, Z afterwards. So, yeah. But in terms of the story, it is fantastic. We're really enjoying it. It's got some nice plot twists coming through that we didn't anticipate, and yeah. So I think we're about halfway through that one. And the next game that we have on the list is Gollum for PS5. Unfortunately, yeah, I see the eye roll. That's the game my wife wanted to play. It is 15 hours. It'll probably feel like 45 hours. And that's what she said. Well, now here's the thing though. as we were walking through Target, I said Rift Apart is gonna be my next game after Gollum. She's like, well, what makes you think that I want to still play Gollum? I'm like, oh, please let it be. No, we're not playing Gollum. We're gonna play Rift Apart instead. I don't know where her head's at right now. It might be Gollum. It might not. She's probably teasing me. I have no idea, dude. I just know if it's Gollum, I'm in for a world of pain for however many days. I think you're muted on my end, by the way.
I've heard horror stories of that game. I haven't played it, but I've just heard horror stories.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So,
should play Skull Island: Rise of Kong next. Go with the full thing.
no, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm actually surprised you're not playing Alundra 2 after Alundra. They're very different games.
And what's crazy is Alundra's always had better reviews, from what I
Yes.
understand.
Oh yeah, it's a better game.
Well, in that, then I don't know if I want to play Alundra 2. What's the style of Alundra 2?
Oh God, I'm trying to even remember. It was one of those where I did enjoy Alundra. I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed what I played, and then I got Alundra 2.
I like the story.
Yeah, the
I'll say
story's
I do like the story. Yeah.
And then I put in Alundra 2, and I think I played it for like 10, 15 minutes, and I took it out of my PS1. I'm like, yeah, okay, I saw enough. Thanks. I'm glad you brought this over.
Is it a continuation on Alundra 2?
I don't think so. I think it's like one of those like years in the.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. Now he's the one that's dreaming, and everybody's coming to fight him. I don't know. I'll look at it as an option down the road, but hey, you know what? I'm a little different sometimes like that. There are games where I absolutely hate them and everybody's loved them.
Yeah.
And then the ones that people hate, I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. I actually really like it. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into our discussion topic this week. And that is an update on premium edition games. So take it away.
Yeah. So we just had our summer direct. It was Monday, on this previous Monday of the time of the recording, which was the 22nd. And we got to showcase new games and give some updates, which is always a fun thing. And these are definitely a labor of love, and they are a lot of work to put together. The months of my life were put to this, making sure this got out okay, and thankfully the reception has been positive. So we revealed our newest series of titles, which are our summer series, which are starting to be pre-ordered right now. We have Curse Crackers first, For Whom the Bell Toils. We teased this last time. This is a phenomenal acrobatic action 2D platformer done in like a Neo Geo Pocket Color or a Game Boy Color aesthetic. Just a blast to go through. You could probably finish the full game start to finish in 4 to 5 hours, but if you want to go for everything, you're looking at like 30 hours worth of gameplay. Like there's a ton of stuff to do in this game, and the platforming is just so fluid. It works. The controls are tight. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to see and do, and there's like some RPG elements in terms of like little side quests, and the characters are great, and just absolutely could not recommend this enough. This swept over the entire team when we tested this. We're like, oh my god, we need to put this game out. So we're glad that we could tease it last time in the spring, and we're glad that now we have it up for pre-order as of right now, live. The second game that's going up is a game we teased last year for PlayStation, which is Bot Gaiden. And Bot Gaiden, we heard from people, is this going to go on Switch? Is it going to go on Switch? And this is going to Switch. It's part of our Switch series, as well as the PlayStation 4 and 5 versions going up for that. Bot Gaiden is if you took Mega Man and you took Ninja Gaiden, you put them together in like a cel-shaded comic book art style adventure. And that rewards speedrunning. And it has a really unique mechanic where when you start a level, you start at full health, and the boss starts at like 1 HP. And as you're going through the level, the boss is slowly filling up its health. So the longer you take through the level, the boss will have higher health. If you can get through the level faster, then the boss is actually weaker and you can defeat the boss that much faster because you're rewarded based on how fast you beat the entire level. And you get permanent upgrades to your character, whether you get a bronze, silver, or gold, and you can get them all. And each level has different upgrades that you can get, which obviously makes speedrunning other levels easier. And it has a cool, unique upgrade system where you got a power up, and then next time you get a better power up, they start stacking on each other. But when you take damage, you lose a power up. You can turn this off. You can make it a little bit more easy and casual, so you don't have to worry, or you can make it as challenging as you want. So it really allows anyone to play whatever their skill is, and it's multiplayer. And if you enjoyed Mega Man games, if you enjoyed Ninja Gaiden style games, you were going to absolutely love this game. So that is coming for pre-order soon. For, like I said, Switch, PS4, and PS5, and the PS4 version is limited to 1,000. It's a one print game. So if you were a PS4 collector, pick that up. The next one we showed off is one again that we showed off last time, and the time before that. We showed it off in the fall of last year and then the spring this year because it needed more time in the oven for the extra content. And as Carl from Nintendo and Morningstar Game Studios, Carl was my indie game of 2022. It is that good, in my opinion. It is another Mega Man style game in the sense of the action platformer, not in the. Well, it actually does kind of have the gaining power ups from beating bosses too, but it's got multiple levels per world, each one with multiple items and objectives that you can hunt down and try and collect for 100%. Wonderful soundtrack, wonderful puzzles, just plays so well. And then they're adding the dump date, which is what we were waiting on, with a bunch of new content, new shops, new items, new music. Just all that is going to be on the card, which is good. And the disc, because we are doing a PlayStation as well. And just a phenomenal, phenomenal game that, we're glad that we're finally able to put out. And, we want to give our developers time to make the game perfect. So that's why we had to delay it to the summer, because we just wanted to make sure that it was top tier, and we do agree that it is top tier. And then finally, we have Soul Stalker from Rad Hood. And Soul Stalker is similar to a game we previously had, which was Scarlet Tower. It's like Vampire Survivors style. But unlike those games, this is level based. So you go through different levels, and it's not two-dimensional in the sense of like these are sprites. It's actually 3D worlds, 3D environments, but the characters are flat Paper Mario style 2D characters. So it gives this really cool juxtaposition of flat 2D characters in a 3D space, and it runs extremely well on the Switch, and it's a ton of fun. There's so much content in this as well. And we saw a lot of people really enjoy Scarlet Tower, which made us happy because it was such a good game. So it was like cool, we could do something similar as well, but also very very different, because of the structure and the graphics. So we're happy that one's coming out, in a couple weeks for pre-order. And that's also coming to PlayStation 5. We do have our mega packs available, however, right now on the website. There's a bunch of different mega packs you can pick and choose. If you don't want to wait, you just want to say, boom, one click and done. It makes things easier. You don't have to come back. But we do also, we'll have them all up individually. They will all be up at the same time individually. So if you say, I want Curse Crackers and I want Soul Stalker, but will Curse Crackers be gone by the time Soul Stalker's up? No, the answer is no. You can absolutely do that. We did touch on some updates as well. So Wife Quest is in hand. Wife Quest is in hand and it is shipping right now. So if you place an order for Wife Quest, you can get it, and there will be a second chance sale soon. Oratorio is also in hand for the NES, so that is available for shipping. So if you ordered it, stay tuned for that. And again, we'll have a second chance sale. Um, Also for the NES, we showed off Crater Song, which I did forget to mention. Creator Song is the next game in the Ore Body series. We had Ore Body, Binder's Tale, and Oratorio. Now we have Creator Song. Creator Song is a unique NES puzzle style game where you actually hold two controllers, and you actually use the left stick to control one, or the left D-pad and the right D-pad to control the other. You hold them like Wiimotes, and it's really unique aspect. No other NES game, I believe, does this, and it's just a lot of fun. It's won awards. It's just a really cool thing. So that's going to go up sometime soon on our webpage. And like our other NES games, we will have a silver version. A lot of people have been asking about Super Dungeon Maker. We did an update last time, and our update is now the game is finally done. We finally passed lot check, the physical lot check, that is. There was a lot of bugs. They found a lot of bugs. They took care of those. And we made sure that our version is going to complete with the DLC. They had DLC characters and pets and familiars. Those are all going to be on the card, our version. So that is going into physical production right now. Also, Lonesome Village and Anuchard are joining it and going into physical production right now. So they are hopefully sooner versus later we'll be able to have them. Everything else has been finalized. That's why we're doing the production. Sunshine Manor, everything is virtually finalized, but we're still waiting on Camp Sunshine. The game is done. The game has not launched on the eShop yet. It's past digital lot check. It's still not on the eShop. We need it on the eShop. We need to check for bugs before we can even put it into physical lot check. That's the only reason those carts are not done yet. We do apologize for the wait. It is out of our control. It was an older game, Camp Sunshine. It had to be ported to the Switch, had to be redone virtually to be ported to the Switch. So we are unfortunately stuck because of that, and we do apologize. We were informed it would be ready sooner, and it wasn't. So we do apologize for the delay, but we will let everybody know. We shout from the rooftops once that's ready to go and into physical production, and then Series 8, which is closing down this upcoming week. So you can still pre-order Series 8. That is Tadpole Treble Encore, that is Scarlet Tower, and this Gordian Quest. The pre-orders will be closing, and they will then be, all the art still has to be finalized. So that's going to be in the process of just making sure everything is good, because that all has to be okayed by the developer, and then we send it to Nintendo for approval as well, and they'll be ordered soon. And to help out, I know there's some of the complaints that people had were one, the website. So the website is getting an overhaul. It's already streamlined quite a bit, but there's more coming. But also, what's the status on things? Yes, we do the updates. We're very public about it, but not everybody watches the directs, which you really should, because they're awesome. But we did make a page on our Discord right now that you can check out. It literally has the statuses, and we're going to update the statuses there. So stay tuned to that channel, so you always get your information.
And then one of the updates I really appreciate from you guys was on the steel books for these games.
Yeah, so when we announced our PlayStation, we announced it was just going to be steelbooks, and it was going to be steelbooks with an O sleeve and everything inside of it. And when we started talking with Sony, that complicated things, because that's some places have done it, some companies have done it, but it's not the norm, and you have to go through extra hoops, and then you have to use like their systems and everything. So we looked at it and said, how can we simplify this? And the way we could simplify it is by doing what everybody else does, which is the cases. So we said, well, we're still doing steelbooks and we're doing the cases. And we also had some people complain, oh, you're only doing steelbooks. I just want a case. Can I just get a case? Like you can just print one, like that magically you can do that. I don't know. But so instead we said, well, look, we've had some people not wanting a steelbook. It's more complicated. How can we simplify this so we can get the games out there? And so we decided to, with Sony, do the actual cases. And then we're still going to do the steelbook, and we're going to use, like our Switch games come with the slip cover, the hard cardstock slip cover, do the same thing, and just have it be a little wider, and so the steelbook and the case fit together, and that way you get it all. So it's still gonna have the soundtrack, it's still gonna have the manual, it's still gonna have the challenge card. And now, if you say, "Well, I don't want all that on my shelf, I just want the case," you can still just put the case. And if you say, "I just want the steelbook," you could just put the steelbook. And if you want both, you could do both. And now everybody wins, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So we that's one of the reasons. That was one of the holdups, is we were trying to tell Sony what we were doing, and here's what we want to do, and then there's like all these extra hoops, and we're like, why is this being so difficult? And we said, how can we simplify it? So we feel everybody wins this way, and if someone's upset, we can't please everybody, but this way you get a case and a steelbook, so everyone should be happy.
You'd think that process would be easier. You would think, like, oh, well, we need X amount of steel books, we need X amount of regular cases.
Well, you know what it is? It depends on order. So when you do things through Sony or Nintendo or any company, you use their proprietary. You'll use their services, just like any outlet. But a lot of times, their service, for like even a car, you bring a car into Honda and you say, I need this fixed. They have the stuff right there. But you could also go to John's auto body down the road, who's been doing it for 50 years, and says, oh, I could get the same stuff much cheaper third party, and you pay a fraction of what you're going to pay. And that's why those auto bodies exist, because you save money. So there's a lot of different, like, Sony could print the manuals, but they're not going to have the sheen that our manuals have. That our manuals are printed by a higher quality printer from another company. So it's like, oh well, we could do it through Sony and be the lower quality and pay a little more because it's Sony proprietary, or we can say we're going to do it with our other company, make the manuals better, and we'll take care of that on our end. You don't need to worry about that, Sony. So
Yeah.
it's always like that. It depends. I mean, look at our first 4 releases. The slipcovers were printed by a different company than our newer ones. You can tell the quality. We upped it. We found a better supplier. We found somebody that could do it, a higher quality and affordable. And we said, let's do that. So you're always going to be at the mercy. And unfortunately, it's not always the easiest because a lot of these companies don't care about physical. They don't care. Look, Sony's minimum print is 1,000. They can print
Yeah.
1,000 copies of the game. Sure, whatever. We're gonna make our money. You're gonna pay us for it, sure. But they're really making more money on the digital because every digital sale they get a cut of if it's on their platform.
Yeah.
So and look, there's a thing about Sony stopping Blu-rays and their outside like they don't care. It's not streamlined. It's not streamlined.
Cut costs wherever they can and
Yeah,
make more money.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
digital is obviously the fastest way to make money versus physical.
correct. Now, though
Yeah.
Sony has to do the Blu-ray disc. Like other companies can do the Blu-ray discs, even though Sony does own the rights, but not the games. Sony has to print the games, just like Nintendo has to print the cards.
Yeah.
You know, but Nintendo doesn't print our manuals. You know what happens with Nintendo, which is different than Sony, a little bit, is Nintendo. All they require you to do is have the card and the case and the inlay, and anything that appears inside the Switch case has to be approved by Nintendo. So if you do have a manual, they won't print it, but they have to see it. They have to approve of it. And we of course send them all that. It's all approved. But then we have our manuals printed by another company. We have the challenge card printed by another company. And all that goes to our assembly plant. Now, with Nintendo, that's fine, but it has to be an assembly plant approved by Nintendo. So it's a third-party assembly plant, and Nintendo has given the okay. They're going to do the quality. So Nintendo will take the cards and print the cards and print the case and all that stuff, and they will ship it to the assembly plant, and we have like the inlay and all that other stuff printed elsewhere. That's why we have like the foil and stuff like that. Nintendo doesn't do that, and if they do, it's going to cost way more than a third party will. So we do that, and it all gets shipped to our assembly plant, and then the assembly plant charges us to assemble each game and shrink wrap and all that stuff, and then that comes to our warehouse, and that's when we can eventually ship it out. And it sucks that it has to be that way, but the truth is if you want quality, not every first party is going to be the same quality because look at what people are able to do now on their own. Like some people can do amazing stuff that blows big companies away. You've even seen it with movies where it's like, oh yeah, here's this somebody in their basement, just like I fixed your movie for you. Here, the scene looks so much better now, and it took me 5 minutes. You know, people are incredibly talented, so it's a process. It's a process I never thought about prior to getting into the industry, and I think it's a process a lot of people don't think about. So I would wish
Well,
it
and
was
then
easier.
when people complain about, oh, well, where's my game? It was announced a year ago, I mean, like people got to understand that there's a lot of things that need to occur for the final product to
Yes,
kind of come in.
yeah, and even with
And
PlayStation,
it's
you're
not
aware.
even just on the production. Like
No,
as you said, it's on even the development side. And oh, well, we found a bug like 2 weeks before we are supposed to release, or 2 weeks before we're going to print for the carts. Now we got to go back, and
yep.
so
And
yeah,
and even physical lot check will still miss. No, physical lot check is done by the first party, Nintendo or Sony. They've missed stuff before. Super Dungeon Maker took a lot of time going through that process because it kept getting denied because there's a lot to that game and it's a two-person team. So it's not us making the game, it's them making the game and them having to pass it before we can do anything. We can't even print it at that point. If it fails physical lot check, Nintendo, you can't say Nintendo, I don't care, print it anyways. Nintendo will not print a game unless it passes their physical lot check. Again, games do get released with bugs. They do not catch everything, but they will not print it unless it at least passes their lot check to the best of their ability.
yeah, the game has to be playable. for the most part.
Yes, for the most part. And again, there are games sent out with game-breaking bugs. It's happened before, and it sucks. They missed it. They're human. I mean, Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, even their physical lot check departments are human, and they will
Yep.
miss stuff. They will make mistakes, but at the same time, they'll also find stuff you never thought possible. Like, how did you even discover this? So it is a process, and it's unfortunately out of our hands. And sometimes it takes weeks. It's not like I submit it, they'll get back to me tomorrow. It's like, no, they'll get back to you in weeks for them to run
Well,
it through.
and thankfully, we're in an age now where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we caught that after the fact. Let's do a digital update that comes through your console versus, hey, premium, we need you to send out a whole brand new set of copies of physical
Yes,
versions.
our job, and we never say we can't avoid this, but we do our best to avoid that situation. We
Yeah.
want to make it so that our carts remain complete on cart as best we can. And I'm never going to say there's never going to be a bug fix down the road for a game. It's always possible, but we're always striving to make sure. And sometimes, like Rack and Ruin PS4, there was a bug with a trophy, and we delayed and we delayed all of PlayStation because of it. Because when you order multiple games, you actually save a little bit of money. Not much, but you save a little bit because all the games still have to be shipped. You know, if someone says, "Well, I know how much a Switch card is, or I know how much a PlayStation disc is," that's the base price. It still needs to be shipped from Nintendo or Sony to your assembly plants, and that costs money. And they don't pay that; you pay that. So
Yep.
you can actually save money by printing multiple games at a time. And we're a small outfit, so if we could save a few $1,000s here or there, that's what we try and do. So we delayed the production to save a little money and make sure Rack and Ruin was good. Now, in the world where that bug was never fixed, we might have said, all right, Rack and Ruin, we're going to cancel that, refund everybody the money of that, and then we'll just print the two. We have no choice, or we'll print Bot Gaiden or something in advance because we did announce that. But thankfully, Rack and Ruin was fixed. So it's all in those situation where there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of it you don't see, and patience is unfortunately needed because there are companies that will be like, oh, day one physical. That happens with a lot of games, and how many of those games have day one patches? We
Yep.
try and avoid that, and unfortunately sometimes that causes a little delay.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
In the event you needed to do a Turok situation, right, where game breaking bug, whatever it may be, and you want to send out a new physical product, do you have to, through like Sony or Nintendo, get everything done again? Or can you just say, Nintendo, we just want the carts? And
Oh,
then
you
from there, you send out the
you can
carts.
just do the cards. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I figured.
Yeah,
Okay.
because Nintendo and Sony, they just, like I said, they print the disc. They will print more. Like, you get a sheet and it's like, what do you want? I want
Hmm.
manual. I want inlay art. I want, this, that, other. But the cart or the disc is obviously the minimum. So you can just order the carts. You don't even have the cases. They'll send you just the blank carts, or not the blank, but just the carts.
Nice.
So yeah, but carts are still expensive.
Yeah.
So to avoid that and save some money, we're trying to avoid that type of situation. Not saying will hit it. I hope we never do, but never say never. But that's why we stress with our developers, let us know, work with us, talk with us. We need the game to be working without these type of bugs. If there's a minor bug that happens to go into it, and it'd be like, oh well, now there's this minor bug that they fixed it. It's a small little file size. It's something that's going to affect maybe 0.01% of the people. If they happen to do something, are you going to reprint cards and send them to everybody? No. No. At that point, you still have a complete game, you still have everything, and you can still play it. If it's game breaking, that's going to be a different story. But if it's not a game breaking, if it's a minor thing, we're going to do our best to avoid it. And we haven't, knock on wood, had to deal with any issues yet. But if in a case like that, it's just download the update. Is all I can tell you. But at least you're getting the full game complete. So if you don't download that, you can still play the game.
And to your point, right? If you're like a 5% chance that you are actually going to encounter that type of error, it's pretty slim, right? And if you at least know where that's at and you have the actual game, you might do your best to avoid that situation
Correct.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we know it could be you could have like one type of armor equipped when you enter one certain area, and then that's what breaks it. So I mean, it could be anything.
When we did Super Blood Hockey, our very first release, it actually failed lot check, physical lot check, because Nintendo found something where it was like, if you hold up R, A, and Y all at the same time on a third controller, and only the third controller creates this weird bug. And it's like, who's gonna do that? Like, what the hell? How did you find that? But it failed, and we're like, you got to fix this weird thing. Who knew? So it was
Well, that's because 4 Nintendo reps were chilling out playing Super Blood Hockey and,
possibly.
jumping onto heroin and everything else that's in the game. So
Possibly. But the kicker is I don't think the digital version was ever patched. I think that was just patched in our version for the physical. So because our version is a different build than the digital version of that game. So I think that bug was only didn't even bother going back to the digital, just in our physical version. But it is fixed. And it's
nice.
it's just funny because it's like they will find weird things and then they'll miss others. So again, they're human. You can get mad at them all you want, but they're still human at the end of the day. So you just got to be respectful.
That's one of my favorite hockey games, by the way.
Oh, Super Blood Hockey is
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, it's so much fun. Like the new NHL 24 and stuff. We were just talking about that last week on the episode. Garbage,
Is it?
terrible games. Yeah, so like playing the old arcade style hockey games are so much fun.
Yeah.
Like it's just that top down view. It's really easy to just play, and you don't have any of the special crap that they've put into the new games. So yeah, I always like a good hockey game, and retro style is the way to go on that.
My favorite, other than Super Blood Hockey, was always NHL Hits. I love the Midway NHL Hits games. It was just so
We
much
talked about it
fun.
last week
So
too.
much
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. NHL Hits was great, dude. And I think it was only like, I think it was 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 hockey, and then when you had the power play, it was 4-on-3, and
yeah, it
it's just brutal
was
stuff.
4-on-4, and they only made
Yeah.
3 of those, and then Midway went out, and no one picked it up, which sucks because I really like those games.
Yeah, NHL Blitz, or not NHL Blitz, NHL Hits, NFL Blitz, and then I think
MLB Slugfest.
yeah, Slugfest.
And
That's the other
Red Card was the soccer version.
Yeah, yeah.
And
God,
all
man,
those
I don't even remember Red Card, but
Yeah.
now that you mention, I do recall.
Yeah, it was Red Card was the aggressive soccer from Midway. But MLB
Yeah.
Slugfest was another great one where you hit the ball and they throw it to first base and you could beat the crap out of the first baseman to try to get him to drop the ball so you're safe.
All those games, dude. All those games are so much fun. Oh man, any other updates? You want to provide?
I think that's it. All I can say is, stay tuned. We have the fall coming up, soon. But like I said, we have a ton of stuff going up on our website right now. Series 8 disappearing. We'll have some second chance sales. We had some conventions throughout the summer, so we went over those through the direct. So if you're able to come by and say hi. And we have some exciting stuff on the way.
Good stuff. Always appreciate it. Well, let's dive into another money pit outside of video games, and that is going to be Lego. So I don't know if you've been collecting Lego at all, if all the Mario stuff, but dude, I've gone down the deep end on Lego this year. So nostalgic Super Mario World, Mario and Yoshi is well, it's been revealed at San Diego Comic Con, which I thought they had a lawsuit to get rid of the Comic Con name from other conventions. It's weird that those things still exist throughout the US.
There's a bunch of different Comic Cons still, but New York and San Diego are the biggest too.
Well, there was a lawsuit years ago, like Salt Lake City or Salt Lake Comic Con, for example, had to get rid of a Comic Con name because it ended up, I think it was maybe New York and San Diego are the same company to run it. But there was there was a lawsuit years ago where I think it was San Diego was claiming copyright on Comic Con. And so a lot of organizations just changed it over. Like we had Phoenix Comic Con, and that ended up switching over to Fan Fusion a few years back. So I don't know.
I think I do remember that San Diego Comic Con was always the biggest one because it was close to Hollywood, so you had all the stars, and obviously it's going on right now as we're recording, ironically. But I think I know New York Comic Con didn't change, and I think what happened, I think New York Comic Con actually got a bigger attendance than San Diego more recently. So it's kind of like, well, we're bigger than you anyways, back off, and or they just didn't want to go after New York Comic Con because that's such a big show. Because those are the two big Comic Cons, and they're different times a year, of course, summer and fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird.
Regardless, all of this is coming from Nintendo. It's the first time I think we've actually cited Nintendo directly, but it's $130. It's the iconic Mario chilling on top of Yoshi with the cake flowing behind him. It's like a side profile view. I mean, it literally looks like it's been ripped off of the Super Nintendo and into Lego form. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at that before this, but that's a sweet looking Lego set, dude.
I saw it and I heard about the feet moving. I'm like, that's cool. And then I watched the video and the tongue even comes out of Yoshi, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. And
You're like, I need it.
I asked my wife, I said, "Should we get this for decoration for our son's room? Because he's got a Mario room. Half his room is Mario and like Zelda, and the other half is dinosaurs." So I'm like, "This is perfect. It's Mario and dinosaur together." So we still haven't decided whether or not we're gonna get it for his room in terms of decoration.
The
Um,
selling point is
they're
you
high.
two get to spend some quality time together building it.
Well, me and my wife get to do that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah, he's
exactly.
too young.
Yeah, call it a date night.
Yeah, there you go. I mean,
There you go.
it's up to her. If she says yes, then sure. I decided because I'm a huge Lego fan. I grew up with Legos, so is my wife, and we are like, oh, the first of the Super Mario sets, and we're like, they're definitely for younger kids. We opted not to go for that, and thankfully we didn't. Although now with the son, we might wind up down the road in retrospect. And then they did like the NES, and I really wanted the NES. I never got it due to space, because I don't know where to display it. It's obviously a display piece, and I've steered away from all of these. The question mark, I've steered away until the freaking Deku Tree, and of course they had to throw Zelda stuff at me, so I had to get the Deku Tree. And then I found out that you can only build one of them with the pack, and I'm like, do I really want to spend $600 to do two Deku Trees? Like that's ridiculous. So I'm opting for one, and I'll see if maybe people will sell whatever other parts off to try and see if I could Frankenstein and build the other one because it's ridiculous. So I might get
Yeah.
this or not, but I think it looks awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it looks badass. I have the Nintendo upstairs. I haven't built it yet. It's still in the box. I've had it since it got released, like day one. And space was the same reason. I'll show you. Nobody can see this, but this is kind of a deep end that I've gone over. Like that is up there now. The Barad-dûr Lego set, and then we have a case with
Oh
a
my
Hogwarts
God,
castle
that's
chilling
beautiful.
inside now. Yeah, so
That is,
um, that's that's been the last however long, this year. And then right now I'm building the Dungeons and Dragons
oh
set.
my God.
So yeah, when I say I've gone off the deep end, I've gone off the deep end.
Did
I
you
haven't
get?
done the Zelda. I haven't pre-ordered
I was
yet.
gonna say, you're gonna get the Deku Tree.
I probably will.
Are you gonna get two so you could build both of them?
No, no, I'll just get the one.
See, I think it should have been $150 for each and let you buy three, or just put both of them in the box. I think that's so silly that at $300 they're like, oh yeah, you can't have both. We're gonna advertise it as a two in one, but you can't build both at the same time.
Well, it's licensing issues plus the materials. Like I want to say that Lord of the Rings was like 450 for that set, but it's like 5,000 pieces. So you kind of figure when I started looking at like doing the math, it's like, okay, 1,000 piece Lego set is about $100. So I want to say the Deco Tree is probably about 2,500,
Yeah,
but then you throw in the licensing component of Nintendo, and then you kind of round up to that, price point.
it's still it's such a craptacular way of doing it because it teases
Yeah.
you. And to buy
Hmm.
or they should have done an upgrade like, all right, look, $300 for this, but we'll sell just the components for an extra $100 if you want the other tree. And that would have been fine. Then $400 for both of them, I could stomach that. I would have done it. But $600?
So when you get beyond that point, look at like I think it's Bricklink, if I'm correct, or Brick Seeker, Brick Finder, all of these websites that have Lego bricks that you can just purchase outright. And so with the Dungeons and Dragons set, they released the Lego Mimic, and the Lego Mimic was like the first hour or two, whatever it was, that it was sold online. That free gift with purchase was gone. So I went on like Bricklink, and it cost me $35 after shipping to pick up every single piece individually from third parties shipped to me. I had like companies from Greece and Spain, and then somewhere in the US, all these Lego sets came or Lego pieces came through. And then I found instructions online, was able to build it, no issue through that mock set. So there is a capability of doing that, but it depends on how many of those pieces are like specific to that set
Yeah.
is the issue you'll run into.
And how
Um,
many left over? I mean, like if you do the one Deku tree, are you left with just like the branches and that's it? You know,
yeah.
the so annoying.
It sucks, but like there's tons of mock sets out there. So you theoretically, like right now, you probably could find like Deku Tree mock set,
Oh
and
yeah.
somebody's already created instructions on how to build it with stuff that's
I
already
I
in market
know
right
it's
now.
one of those things where I'd rather like do the official and
I know. Same here, dude. That's why I have the Lego the with the Mimic, I was like, man, like that sucks. Like I'd rather have the real thing. But then I started looking, I'm like, the only thing that was different out of all the mock pieces was the eyes, and the eyes I selected looked better than what was released. So ended up being fine. And then this set that Baradur had the what is it, the Wraith, whatever it is with it. Um Fell Beast. The Fell Beast. The Fell Beast on eBay was going for like $200.
wow.
It's like a $20 MSRP, but because it was sold out, that's kind of what you run into. And that has pieces that there's no way you're going to get it on like Bricklink or something.
Yeah.
It's got like plastic wings that work specifically for that. Yeah. So either way, gone off the deep end, dude. I've got a ton of Mario Lego sets. I had the same idea you did where, hey, well, you didn't go through and buy them, but I've got like older Mario sets that came out several years back that I purchased in advance, knowing at some point I want to build Lego with my kid, and now I have it, and I don't have to worry about purchasing it down the road. So that's kind of the route I took. So I've got probably like 10 birthdays and Christmases all tied into boxes where I could just kind of set them aside and he'll never know. Unless he listens to these episodes when he's older. Then I'm screwed. All right. So the next thing we have here is Activision deals a big blow to Call of Duty cheaters. So this is pretty cool. And I'm surprised they haven't done it before, but I'm also not surprised. I wonder if this is more of a push from Microsoft specifically. But the idea here is that they have been sending out essentially cease and desist and lawsuits to companies that are able to help support cheating. So one of these was Raging Nation, and I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what they're doing to cheat. I would guess aim assist and looking through walls and other crap that you could put on PC and console, whatever it may be, to cheat in those games. And what they found is that after they removed these cheaters, there was only one team out of the top performing teams that was actually still performing well, which lets you know that all of those other teams are cheating this entire time. And so one of the things I also looked at in advance on this too is that Warzone apparently has really, really bad reviews right now on Steam, and all of them stem from cheating. And then people are pissed off that there's been no action. So it's cool to see Activision coming through and just saying, look, we're going to send lawsuits and whatever we need to do to these cheating companies that are supplying gamers with the ability to cheat. And once they're out of the picture, that should kind of help things out. I'm not saying that that's the solve or the overall solution, because more small companies will pop through, more folks will figure out ways to cheat and code in there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's cool to see a company actually taking action on something like this, like a first person shooter.
I 100% agree. I'm completely anti-cheating. Now, if it's something where it's a single player game and you're doing it to make your personal experience better, I have no
Yep,
problem. None whatsoever.
absolutely.
Absolutely
Yep.
do whatever you can. Like I play my games on easiest mode just to go through the story and have a good time and less stress. I'm not hurting anybody. It's literally just me playing and having fun. And if that's what you need, I mean, I played Final Fantasy 11 for years, and that was an online game, but we used things like Windower, which was a thing to allow you to minimize because it didn't have a minimization feature, and like that made it so that I could minimize and use a browser, like something like that. Like I should just be able to do that. I didn't have two monitors at the time. Uh, that didn't affect my game or affect anybody else's game, and that's fine. When you're dealing with an online stuff, anything online, and especially competitive, and someone has a clear advantage, and I'm not talking skill advantage, but clear advantage, then it's no longer fun, and that sucks. And it's the same thing with sports. I mean, that would be like saying, okay, we're going to have the Little League World Series and we're going to bring in a professional MLB team to play another little kids. Like, no duh, those big, the MLB professionals are going to kill the kids. That's not fun. That's not fun.
I was thinking darker. I thought you were going to say we're going to hop up one team with steroids and the other team gets, in little league.
Oh, well, I mean, and that's my biggest thing right now, even with online games, because I play a few, and I don't like ranked. I very rarely will play ranked mode because I don't have a team, and it pieces you with random people, and then it punishes you if you lose. And there's
Yep.
times where I played against a team that was definitely all professional, and then I'm paired with bots, or I'm paired with brand new people, and it's like. there's no way I'm getting beat
It's
up.
not fun.
It's not fun. And now
Yeah.
I get penalized, because my team lost, and it's not my fault the team lost. I always said, like, if you're like the MVP of your team, you shouldn't lose. If you're the one losing team, you should lose any points. That way it incentivizes you to perform better. But yeah, it's no fun. So I say get rid of all the cheaters on online stuff. I'm glad that those teams now are no longer in the top, because it shows that they only got there by cheating. And what kind of lesson is that teaching kids? Because let's be honest, the majority of people playing Call of Duty are kids, and they're like, oh, I can cheat and get ahead. You can't
Yeah.
do that in life. You can't cheat and get ahead. You have to, you can skirt around things, sure, and there's little life hacks, sure, but you can't just cheat and get ahead. You can't cheat at school to get ahead. You can cheat on a test here or there, but you're getting a better grade, but you're not really getting ahead in life. At work, depending on what you do, you can't really cheat. And a lot of times if you're caught, you get fired. Now you're in really worse shape. So it's a good lesson to learn to play by the rules. These are the rules established. Be fair, and a fair competition. If you lose, and use that as a motivator to get better, to
Well,
practice.
and it affects others. I mean, you
Yeah,
and I could be playing that game, and it hastens our rate of going to a midlife crisis because we get frustrated, right? Like we're older, so we just want to relax and play games,
exactly.
and we deal with these cheating kids. So, yeah, it affects everyone.
I
People.
mean, I mean, think about it. I mean, think about if you played Mario Kart, right? You play Mario Kart online, and you get hit by a shell, and you just spun out, and then you have to start back up, and it's frustrating. And now here you are, you're on the home stretch, and you're in second place, and you have two red shells, and you throw one at the person ahead of you, and it hits them, and they just keep going, even though they
Yeah,
were hit. And then you hit them a second time, and they still keep going, and they cross the finish line, and you're like, I should have won that. Why? You're supposed to spin out. I hit you twice, and they're using some kind of cheat device so that they never spin out whenever they're hit. You would be furious, and if you're not,
yeah,
then I think you would be lying, because that's unfair. That's no fun.
yeah. No, I mean, and that's the big part of it is like it's no fun at the end of the day. So, yeah, I'm all for this. Now, in terms of the actual lawsuit and if this would actually hold up in court, I do wonder, right? Because if you're a third party and you're producing some sort of software, and yeah, it might, let's just say if you're Steam, you can use that, right? I don't know that there's any like legal right that they actually have, but the thing that they're doing here, and actually what Raging Nation called out, is we're not a big enough team to fight any sort of litigation against us. And you know what? That's what Activision's doing. And I think that they're using their weight to their advantage in this case. And I'm okay with it in this
Yeah,
instance, right?
absolutely.
Whereas, we've talked about this before, where you might have a small team using Unreal Engine and produces Ocarina of Time, and all of a sudden Nintendo's like, nope, here's our weight. We're going to throw it on you because you're having too much fun. And I get it. We talked about IPs and stuff before. But it's nice to see a company like using that weight for good for
Yeah.
once.
Oh, it definitely is. And there's anytime you play any online games, there's terms of service. Most people don't read them. They just scroll to the bottom and click I agree. When you click
Yeah.
I agree, in that is we hold the right to just, ban your account and prevent you from playing for breaking our terms of service. And some of the terms of service is no use of unauthorized third-party tools. It's in every
Yep.
single one of those. So by you
Yep.
cheating and using that, you're breaking terms of service. They absolutely can destroy your account, and you can't do anything about it because you agreed to it. And if you don't like it, then don't agree. And if you don't agree, you can't play, in which case
Yep.
you're not playing.
Yep. Totally with you, dude. Yeah. Well, that's some good stuff. Definitely excited about that. And even though I don't play Call of Duty, I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of folks out there that this is pretty exciting for them to finally have an even playing field. So it's good. All right. So into our inflation deflation of the week. This week we played a little bit of Kung Fu Chaos, or I played a little bit of Kung Fu Chaos in the Xbox. Barry does own the game. It was developed by Just Add Monsters, published by Microsoft Game Studios. It was released in February of 2003. It is a fighting slash party game, and received a reception about six out of 10 on average. And then the overall synopsis is Kung Fu Chaos is an entertaining brawler game inspired by 70s kung fu movies. You fight as one of 9 characters, 3 of which are unlockable, and it looks, moves, and taunts based on kung fu movies. So The game itself is okay. I think it would have benefited me to have a second player in this instance, but I did look at a few of the um, pieces on the wiki here to kind of give me a better understanding about how other people felt. Because after playing the game, I felt a little empty. It puts you into, depending on the area you're in, if you're doing just straight fighting, which mind you, everything is locked except for like individual fighting and their like kung fu chaos thing where you get pit up against like a party of different people to unlock different levels. Um, but it feels empty in a sense of there's not a ton of combos that you can have. A lot of the players do play the same. It does get kind of confusing because a lot of players do look pretty similar because of how they move. The special abilities are a little different amongst each one. And then graphically, it's not anything phenomenal, right? So as I was playing this, I found myself getting confused with different characters on screen. I found myself just kind of pressing the same buttons over and over again, and a few combos like XXB every now and then, or BBX, whatever it may have been, picking up different players and throwing them over the edge. It it was just kind of too simple for me for a fighting game. And I think with a fighting game, there's a nice balance between full blown complex move combinations that you see in things like Virtua Fighter and Tekken. And then you have like this, which is like bottom of the barrel. Like I kind of like that in the middle feeling of I feel like I'm doing combos and things are actually occurring. I feel like a good player, but it doesn't feel like I'm cheating the system because it's just spamming the same move, if you get what I mean.
Oh, you don't like button
And
smashing and
Nah, I mean, I don't mind
spamming.
button smash. Like Super Smash Bros. Melee, for example, to me is a very good kind of fine balance in between because you do have your combos that you can do, but you can also there's a number of like one button arrays or semi combos that you can do with the joystick and like the A button or B button, whatever it may be, in GameCube. That just makes you feel like you actually know what you're doing. And then you have your pro players that you're like, okay, yeah, you're gonna just, you know, kill me immediately, right? Like there's nothing I can do. I'm going to get 300% and I'm done to your zero. So that was a big part of it for me. I will say that in addition to like the standard fighting that was there, they had like a party game feature that I jumped in on. That was actually kind of fun. It reminded me a little bit of not Mario Party, Fusion Frenzy, in a sense, right?
I
Like
really liked Fusion Frenzy.
yeah, it's a blast. I love Fusion Frenzy. Never did play number two, but I'm sure that's just as good. Uh, but like one of the things I played was there's a piece of a wood beam in the middle, and you have to like hit it, and then it changes from you to the other direction. The other player has to hit it, and so on. So the idea is that every time that beam is hit, it goes faster and faster. You're supposed to jump over or hit it. And then you have X amount of lives, and whoever gets knocked down first obviously is out, and it just kind of continues to pass along play with that beam going faster. So it has little party games like that built in. It does have the main fighting that you can play with in party mode as well as individual one-on-one. So overall, I would say for a fighting game, it was way too easy. It felt okay. It probably would have benefited from having a second player, but it's not something to write home about. And I think that's where that 6 out of 10 average comes into play. It's something that's okay to pass the time. Trying to think of anything else that I thought of this game. I guess one other thing, with it being 20 or 2003, this game is pretty racist. At the end of the day, there was a lot of stereotypes that were thrown in there that I was like, whoa, okay, I'm surprised this isn't a video game. And then I looked at the year, I'm like, okay, 21 years ago, that kind of makes sense as to what was in there and what's not. But I think at some point, like they were saying, God, I don't remember, but it's just like the fake Chinese accents kind of coming through for just about everything. And I'm like, it's all white actors behind the scenes. So it was. I didn't. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked to see exactly who's acting on the back end, but that's just my thought. And yeah, so I did think it was a slightly racist game at the end of the day, but it was all right. So brass tacks on this: a complete in-box copy is going for $23.61. It peaked at $32.32 in April of this year, actually, and the price is trending up. And then a loose copy will run you $16.78. That actually peaked at $18.89 last month, and so that's also trending up. I mean, if you don't have Kung Fu Chaos, it's like I said, it's an okay game. I think I could see a lot of fun with 4 players, especially in that party mode. In any sort of brawl situation, it is a little hard to distinguish characters from one another, but I can see this as something that if you just have the buddies together and you want to, have a good time with something that's not Mario Party, maybe not Fusion Frenzy, this might be a good route to go. It does have, it's a fighting party game, right? Like, how many fighting party games do you really have out there that bring in humor plus the fighting component? So
It was also back at the time when Microsoft was actually going out there and getting exclusives because they were new. So it's like it's an Xbox exclusive, and it's like that's great. There was so many of
yeah,
those weird, quirky Xbox exclusive games because Microsoft cared about that stuff. Now they say they care about exclusives, and
and they really
they
don't.
don't really.
Yeah, I one of my things is always to try and collect Xbox exclusive games. This is one of those.
Yeah,
I actually don't think it has a tag of
yeah, it
only on
does.
Xbox.
Yeah, I believe
It
it
does.
does have a only
I
on
don't remember
Xbox.
seeing it on my case, but I didn't exactly pay too much attention to it.
I believe.
I can tell you it is not backwards compatible in the 360. So I had to bust out the OG Xbox to play it. I would assume it's also not compatible on the Xbox One or the Series X. That would be my assumption.
Probably. I would agree with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, all right. That's the game for this week. We will be starting up a new set of 4 games. Ryan is supposed to be back next week. We're going to start up Wrestling Month. I have not decided what we're going to start first. It might be Fire Pro Wrestling. It might be Rumble Roses. I'm not sure. I got to figure out what I want to beat him in, and then go from there. So that's the overall plan. So we will have him on next week for episode 298. Barry, do you want to remind folks where they can find you again before we log off for today?
Yeah, so you could find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Fuse over at Hawk Hellfire. You can find Premium Edition over at Premium Edition 1 on Twitter, as well as at Premium Edition Games everywhere else, as well as PremiumEditionGames.com, where you can pre-order all of our Series 9 titles. Still can pre-order our Series 8 before they go off, as well as get a bunch of in-stock games right now.
Appreciate it. Well, Barry, thanks again for popping on. Definitely appreciate all the updates for Series 9. Looking forward to a lot of those games, and we'll be talking to you pretty soon, I'm sure.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Well, this has been episode 297 of the Game Deflators Podcast. My name's John, and thanks for listening.